There we go. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 23 of the Leonis Support. JB and I back after. I don't even know. Shit, that intro went out the door. Put that on the blooper reel. JB and I back with another week of news, updates, literally everything. And we have something very special for you guys tonight as well. We do have that TMR tier list of sorts where it's not a true tier list. It's kind of a breakdown, but we want to at least talk about it. It's something that we talk about a lot and get questions on, but deserves some extra attention. And so we promised that last week. We are going to do it tonight at the very end here. So look forward to that as well.
It's going good. Had a good weekend with the family. We had beautiful weather, so we went up to Maine to some of the beaches up there, and yeah, and had a good weekend, and I just enjoyed the outside a little bit. How about you?
Honestly, the same. I haven't been able to get out as much this summer, but it was the Pokemon Go Community Day this weekend, and so we got like 5 or 6 miles in both Saturday and then Sunday also, and good to get outside, have a little fun. Nothing too crazy, but other than that, just some Genshin, some hanging out, just watching TV, the usual. It's been good though.
Nice. I had my fantasy football draft as well, so got together with some friends and got some chicken wings and just kind of had some beers and did the draft, so that was fun too.
Way to do it. Yeah, mine's September 4th. My girlfriend's doing it too. We got like a friend group that we do it with, so it's a good thing to just like on a weekend, week out, have something to talk about and have something to watch theoretically. So
Definitely.
yeah, but yeah, we got some good stuff here. We got the news of Summer Glacy, which we kind of knew was impending. I think a lot of us predicted it just based upon the limit break upgrade and just like the timing of August coming to an end and some of the map effects. And there's a lot of things that pointed to it overall, but we have covered her extensively and the vision card as well. Everyone kind of knows about her at this point. So we're not going to talk necessarily a lot about her. We'll look at her JP influence in just a little bit here, but we'll talk more specifically about no banner rate up on her and the road to worldwide kind of being pitched as the Jayden, Summer Jayden boosted rate here, which we were getting anyway, theoretically, from what they did in JP. There's a lot of people talking at the moment in the Discords, obviously, right? Like frustrations coming out, the memes are coming out, the road to worldwide. Are we feeling any different about this now? Like, how do you feel this morning, or how reacting to seeing people talk?
I mean, I think it for me is just the same as last week, where it's the slow bleed of this kind of things that they're giving us that aren't really all that amazing, and they're making it look and feel like it's supposed to be something better than it actually is. And I think that that's what people are frustrated about, because initially Gumi kind of it seemed like they were going to have this grand gesture, and to this point we haven't really seen it. It's been, hey, we're going to do this, but don't look at what we're doing behind the scenes. We're actually taking a bunch of stuff away over here. Everybody got pissed off, and then they started putting those back in quietly. But the net effect is that everybody just is kind of over this road to worldwide, because it's really, it's really been a net, negative, I would say, for the community, unfortunately.
But it brought a lot of good things to light. I think there was a lot of, this was the first time that I actually felt the community had some influence over the decision making of the company, which I think is the first time we've really felt that. Even things with like obviously we remember like offer wall and whatnot, like that still took forever to get anything out of, even like some of the cheating that went on for a long time, like hacking. Like this actually felt tangible. I know at this point, like I think any kind of anger or frustration I've had is gone. At this point, I can see the memes. I do think it's kind of comical to a degree, but like they've done some good things. They brought us the pack H last week, which was the first pack in weeks, which again, good start. That's what we wanted. They gave it to us. They bumped up the rainbow scrolls on the paid pack from 80 to 120 this week. They also have done things, obviously the 0.8 banners on a couple of these units. They have slowed not slowed, but they've kind of gone back to normal, the release of things. There was that crunch there initially with like Minotaur coming the same week as some of the others. Obviously the acceleration of Dialdo and a bunch of other characters, but we're not getting stuff jammed down our throats. This is pretty much par for the course. So like my anger at this point, and they, gave us the extra Viz. I'll be honest, I probably have more Viz right now than I have in like the last month and a half, despite everything coming out. So like I'm not angry, and I think they've given us some of what we wanted. I agree. At this point, it's just get it over with. But yeah, I don't know. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think like it was telegraphed that we were going to be getting Glacy this week, and I don't think that anybody reasonably could have expected that we were going to be getting the point 0.8 rate for this unit. I mean, if it happened, I would have been over the moon. Like
Right.
I was definitely not expecting it at all. I was expecting that they might boost some old units, and that's what they did this week with Summer Jayden. And I mean, to be honest, that's fine. For people who don't have them, we're interested in maybe picking them up. That's he's actually a very very good unit.
Absolutely.
Where things go from here in terms of Alaya and Melnia and some of these other units, I don't know, man. It could go either way. I'm just going to assume that they're going to come in at the normal point 0.4 rate.
Me too.
Um, the point 0.8 stuff, I mean, just kind of being real, I wish that these older units would come back at that point 0.8 rate just as a standard. I feel like these older units that are getting upgrades and kind of maybe have a short window of kind of getting back into the picture, or maybe they're not even back in the picture, but maybe you just want to pick them up for collecting purposes. I think it would be nice for Gumi just to implement, boosted Rainer banners for some of this old stuff.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, because we've seen at this point too, mind spheres are becoming more and more of a bottleneck for many. So even if you increase the rate of acquisition, that doesn't mean they're going to 140 them as quickly. And even if you do get the mind spheres to do so, antlers are obviously scarce. They are costly. So even if you can pull a unit, there's still enough bottlenecks along the way that I'm not too concerned about Gumi like giving away the house, if you know what I mean, by just bumping up the banner rates. I think that would be totally fine, or conversely doing something to allow us to buy more viz more economically, like the pack H and other just bundles that they've done, speaking generally. But I mean, overall, I'm past it. I don't think we're on the road to worldwide anymore as far as I'm concerned. They did their 3 stages of it. We got a bunch of things that didn't end up living up to expectations. I'm shocked they pitched this as part 4. Like, that seems new. Like, they said it was going to be 3 parts, right? So like, what's part 4? So I'm just like, whatever. I'll meme on it. I think it's fine, but the anger's gone.
And we're not even close to caught up at this point, right?
No, no.
So yeah, I mean, presumably there might be a part 5.
I would don't doubt it. I mean, considering the amount of time, and we're not going to get like caught up. Caught up. We'll always be 2 weeks at best to a month behind. But like, yeah, they're gonna. I don't know.
I've memed around it that road to the next road to worldwide is going to be Alaya getting the boosted barracks and hard quests, as that's our road to worldwide 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But she'll be at the normal rates, which is whatever. I mean, JP is, and everybody knows JP has just gotten a lot of this stuff as kind of part of their weekly campaign. So
Right.
it's nothing really all that special that they had to make some big announcement and do all this stuff for. If they could have just given it to us and people would have been surprised.
It cheapens it. It's like lipstick on a pig. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, look at
Yeah.
this thing, and it's like, what do you mean? Like, this is coming anyway. Yeah. But
anyway, let's talk a little bit about Jayden.
Yeah. So he's got some great job upgrades here. So Summer Jayden, who is getting that 0.8 upgrade in JP, and we're getting this now too, he got some adjustments to the job, which is kind of unique. They obviously, like, by and large, will upgrade the generic jobs, but not always the like character unique jobs. And he's got 3 of them here, and we'll go through them quickly. That I think Summer Jayden's aged very well, and these are really, really great. Specifically, I do like this in that Earth matchup with Bradley in particular. Obviously, he's on every team. But if you don't mind, I'll just kind of recap here. You can see it on the screen here. Splash Shower, which is his main giant AoE, lowers slash attack res piercing rate for 3 turns, and I believe it's a 40% reduction, which is massive. That's a big damage reduction, considering that Bradley only gets up to that 100 if he limit breaks. So without that, you're significantly nerfing his slash res pen here. And our global version of the Summer Jayden card does have 10% slash res on it. Not amazing, but like, at that point, the more slash res you add, the obviously better it gets. So I don't know yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the other thing about this attack is that it's a large diamond AoE.
Right.
And I mean, when you have Jayden in your party, ultimately you're going to have him on the back line out of the way of AoEs anyway. So really this is benefiting any bruisers or tanks in front of him who generally do have very good slash resistance. So
good point.
That's going to be big for their survivability for sure. Going to give him like a supportive angle that he hasn't really had as much of before.
That's a good point. Absolutely true. Right. And yeah, the next one here, the sun's out, guns out. The buff here is that it's getting the critical evasion rate, which I'm not going to sleep on. One of the actual, let's say, weaknesses of Bradley, he's not a huge crit monster. He actually will just normal damage a large majority of the time. And so this is a pretty nice, like, ninja way to reduce how much the odds of that happening, number one. But even when you think of, like, most Bradleys are reincarnated at the top end of the game, if you were to say, like, pick a distribution of who's the most often reincarnated unit. He's one of them. And so you do get a decent crit rate bump as a reincarnated unit. And this basically offsets that power creep of him, if you will. So I do kind of like this one as well in terms of making sure that you can nerf some of his damage.
Especially with the Full Metal Alchemist card that he'll be wearing quite often, which does get that additional modifier for him. So
Right.
this one is actually a 30 crit evasion buff, not
Huge.
only to himself, but also to his allies. So that's significant there as well. Yeah, these are
Absolutely.
very, very strong buffs here. I know that I saw some complaints in the Reddit and the Discord is nobody wants this unit or like, where's the MA2? These upgrades here are way better than
Way
any
better.
MA2 we've ever, if you consider these, an MA2,
Right.
this would be like a a banger MA2 and then some.
Way better. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this one is I always get this mixed up. Low key enormous. And I'm just going to reference this again. Everyone needs to see it. I always forget whether they talk about things being applied pre or post damage. This ability used to be that it would be a dispel post damage. And this one, it's getting flipped so that it's now pre damage. Absolutely enormous when you talk about dispelling like a spirit up or a missile res or anything.
Yeah, any
Excellent
kind of
upgrade.
resistance.
Yeah, yeah. Three significant buffs for him.
Yeah, so I mean that one's on his guaranteed hit as well. I think the best one here is that flash res penetration debuff.
I agree.
That one I think is the prize of the litter here. Because when you think about some of the top units used out there, the Bradleys and Sephiroths, they're coming in with that 40% base, and then they're building up on that with equipment. So you're just erasing that passive that they have equipped, and then they're forced into using Hell's Gates for Sephiroth, or they're forced into using Bradley's Limit Burst, which actually Bradley he's often kind of out of range to use that because he likes to
Yeah.
sit back and use his rend attack. So
Yep.
it's not always quite easy for him to use that. So really really strong, I think, especially against the meta right now.
I agree, and not even considering obviously the fact that it's going to change the AI, but just the damage values. That's a big damage nerf when you take away that 40 slash res pen. And so Summer Jayden, I know I'm looking forward to. I've loved him since he came out. I'm still very high on him. I've just been waiting for that 140 upgrade, and we'll talk about that in a little bit when we review all the 140 for all the summer units. I know specifically I wanted to circle back real quickly on Summer Glacy too, just in terms of not having that banner rate up. Is she still worth it, you think, in terms of be a pull strategy here? Are you pulling for her? Are you recommending others still too?
I mean, we've gotten three very very strong tanks here, like in the last couple of months. We starting with Dialdo, going into Raft, just a few weeks ago, and now we're getting Summer Glacy here. Essentially earlier in our timeline, but where we always get the summer units, so it's not really unexpected. So I think if you're a person who hasn't, invested into any of those other tanks, you want to get at least one of them. So it's this is probably one of the best ones, if not the best of the three, just because of the new mechanic that she's bringing in tow. In my opinion, she goes toe for toe with Raf and Dialdo in terms of the base mitigations and the kit and all that stuff. And then she just adds that supportive aura ability on top of it, which in my view just kind of takes her up another notch. The only thing that's kind of tough for her is the strength of the lightning element, especially once Alaya gets here. And everybody in Global is waiting for that unit, and they're all going to pull her. So at least in the JP side, I think we'll pull up and look at it, but it hasn't really hurt her viability. And that's saying quite a bit when you know how strong Alaya is. So she's definitely worth pulling. I'm going to try and get her. So
Same.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, I'm not even scared of that lightning matchup. Her debuff weakening is a big part of mitigating that, and her ability to be put into, out of all the tanks that we've seen, Dialdo and Raf included, I've seen more rainbow teams with Summer Glacy than either of them. Now, both of them have, and you and I have very successfully been using Dialdo in a rainbow team this week, or at least a dual element team. Summer Glacy, though, that aura is very unique. It's almost like runic blade level of unique, and how just game changing it is for anybody that's around her. And unless they come out with a character to like specifically counter that, overall, I think she's a very, very solid pull that I think most people would get a ton of value out of, regardless of the strength of lightning.
We did just see that they gave, I don't know if you saw King Mont's upgrades this week over on JP, but his limit burst upgrade is quite insane. But it adds this, at least partial of what Glacy gets. He gets the physical mitigation after he uses that limit burst. So, that's pretty cool. Maybe, if you if you skip out on her, maybe that's something you could look forward to. Maybe you've already heavily invested into Dialdo or something like that. I'm sure we're going to be seeing more of these, as we go, and then eventually some counter, down the road. But at least so far in JP, it hasn't happened yet. It didn't happen so far with FF8.
No, and FF8 does seem to at least be tailor made to help stomp on on Alaya as well. Squall does seem primed to go toe to toe in that lightning matchup. Renoa obviously is a massive buff to Earth, who will help counter that. So overall, I think what they've rolled out for 8 has already done a decent job, and they were already kind of phasing out Alaya a little bit in terms of giving some counters. But I mean, on the note of the limit break you brought up with King Mont, in terms of PvE content, we're getting a couple things here. We are getting the Burst Core Ruins, which will finally give us the item that you can use to upgrade someone's limit break. I don't know enough about this to say like how often we're going to get it, but I do know that you are getting, I think, at least just one. I don't think you're getting more than that. I think it's a one-time nightmare level difficulty stage. I haven't looked at it more than that, but that's kind of the basics I know from the news.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know exactly the cadence in terms of how freely they've been giving these out. But they've been upgrading the units relatively quickly, and they've had a couple of batches so far over in JP. So hopefully they're a little bit more free with them than they have been with Antlers.
Yeah.
Because those, I mean, I really wish Gumi would upgrade the step ups for the banners and give us Antlers, give us scrolls on those, and some of these awakening material, the older stuff too, like rainbow, fragments and spheres and stuff. So
the rainbow
Gumi,
spheres, absolutely.
if you're listening,
and I hope you
my
are.
weekly Gumi. If you're listening, please upgrade the step ups because people are hurting for their awakening materials.
Yeah, the rainbow spheres in particular, that's ludicrous. We've said that before, that people are tapped out on that. I have 1,000 of them. I really don't know how people are at 0. Like I don't get how that occurs, but like that shouldn't happen. It's such an old resource and material. We should be way past that one at this point as a bottleneck. If it should be Antlers, like theoretically it should be. It should be the newest thing is the bottleneck. So Antlers, yeah, I want more. I need more. But I get it. They're going to bottleneck that. Blossoms were the same way for a while. They're still kind of bottleneck, but a little bit easier. Like Rainbow Spheres, that's 2021. Like, let's go. Like, let's get past that.
Yeah, it's time for that to be done, or just to eliminate it.
Yep.
To be honest,
it's true.
We've got new gating materials already.
Right. And then on that note of other PvE material, we do have a special item coming out here. It's the Moogle accessory, which is really unique to the summer units in particular. We're going to go through their 140 upgrades in a moment here, but this one, it's some crit damage, reaction block rate of 30, the all element attack, so it applies to all of them in terms of adding a modifier of 10. It's technically got a mix of attack and magic and a little bit of crit rate. This is part of a shop that's essentially coming out. It's going to be like a raid shop. They're kind of calling it that, but it's not truly a raid. It's basically just a farmable stage, and they're going to have some stuff to buy, and this is one of them. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really excited about this item. I don't know if you've looked at it in depth yet.
So I think from what I've heard, this is similar to like a half raid like we got with Addison Ray, where it's like the Kraken is going to be kind of more limited in levels, so it's a little bit more casual in terms of completing it. The item itself, it's whatever, it's I don't know if I'll be using it, but maybe you can fit it in, in certain builds. I think that it's cool that we're getting some of these kind of smaller, more niche events, whereas, like this one and the Balo event that they brought out. In the past, those are things that were occasionally skipped for us here in Global, so hopefully that's going to be something that we can expect going forward as part of the worldwide version, where we'll be sort of toe for toe with all these special events that JP gets.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like the concept. I just don't think the impact is there. Like the crit damage, the Trust Stone is up to 10. This is 15. That's a measly extra 5, and that's assuming you get a great hit rate, right? So this might even be a useless stat for some of them. The reaction block's not that much higher. The all element attack is fine. There's just not a lot that's really special here, and I would be really shocked to sub it in for a weapon or a armor or accessory. I don't think it's that good overall.
I think the best part is probably the added reaction block for these older units that don't really have that built into their kits.
No, it's true, and that's where I bring up the Truststone passive as like the alternative, going from 20 to 30. I think it's sizable when you consider the proc rates of like RAF and some of those counters where it's like 70% or 100% chance to proc. But other than that, I won't call it niche, but it's not all that impactful.
It's not game changing.
Yeah, and then we do have a bunch of 140s to go over here as well. We'll try to get through these as best we can. Obviously, there's a lot to go through, and so yeah, we get a bunch of 140s, and Summer Helena's getting a MA2 as well. And so she's getting that react block rate of 40 we were just talking about, an extra 10 AoE res here. They're getting healing power of 20 and magic res pen of 20, which is kind of nice. I don't hate this one. I think these are good upgrades for her.
Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't really jump off the page, but there's some good quality of life with the reaction block, and then the healing power, I think, kind of gives her a little bit more punch to her white mage sub job, kind of getting off some better healing, which she does do, especially kind of in between battles if somebody's hurt. So
yep,
it's not terrible.
No, not at all. And being a glove unit, I conceptually like what they're doing for her, just because I do think glove is on the rise overall. And I know her big upgrade here, this is a big one, is the AI change, where she's getting a physical barrier done here. It's going to help a lot to not run in circles casting this buff. I think overall she's going to be a lot better because of it.
She is going to be getting the upgrade to her limit burst here as well. This one's it's not quite as impactful as some of the others we've seen, but essentially it's just going to add that haste dispel, and then it's going to increase that to an XL modifier. Yeah, I mean it's good. Like, she can do a lot of damage, going up to 40% modifier. She's got her buff online for the extra 50, so can get up towards a 300, close to a 300% modifier before you include anything else. So yeah. I don't know. She hasn't really ever made a big impact here. She kind of had a very light impact last year when she came out, and there was some play with Skahal and Resnick with the kind of double bruiser mage. That was kind of before there was so much, AoE barrier break, and then Sephiroth coming in with his AoE courage dispel that, I don't know. I'm not sure that the 10 area resistance is going to be enough that she can kind of stand up to the dark teams out there.
No, I would agree with that. I think these are good upgrades. I think she's going to get more usage, but I don't think she's going to be a definite when you're talking about a party of 3.
So I think it's good, not great.
Yeah, I'm with you. For Summer Jayden, he's getting that 140 as well, in addition to all those ability upgrades. And he's getting 20% magic, which, it's kind of that one of those power creep things. It's nice. I don't think it's a huge thing to talk about. The 15 AoE res, I do think is sizable. And then his big thing on his single target is that he's also getting a 50% chance to silence, in addition to breaking magic barriers on it. And I think we brought that up a while ago, and we were trying to predict, I think you had specifically, in terms of predicting, upgrades to a character like this, kind of similar to regular Jayden. I think this is an exceptional upgrade for him overall.
Yeah, this is an amazing ability. Not only does he get the barrier break, but then a 50% silence.
Thank you. The percent, huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, anytime that you see, 25% is just ho-hum standard ailments. This one, 50%, gonna, especially being a 97 faith unit, it's gonna have a very good chance of landing that. Think about him shooting Raph with that. She can't cast anything.
Dialdo, same thing.
Dialdo, yeah, exactly. Yep. Getting Dark Fina. Any of the mages are going to be completely, broken by this ability. So
yep,
very, very nice. And yeah, another reason why I think that he's going to be making an impact, for those that have him out there.
Absolutely agreed. Definitely. Well, good. We also have Summer Elsirelle here, and for her, she's getting 10 defense and 20 spirit penetration. Definitely more of like a power creep adjustment, more so than like a character upgrade. And the big thing they're changing to her AoE ability here is that she's going to get fire and dark res of 25, which a couple units have these kind of like niche elements where they can give resistances to. I kind of like that they throw it in there. It helps the matchups. I think these are two valuable ones overall. Obviously, her niche is very strong anti-fire. I mean, she can easily get to 100% fire res just because of her mastery, so this feeds into it. I think the dark is really just more for, like, I don't know, meta tuning, if you know what I mean, where helping in that matchup overall. But I don't think this is necessarily a very strong 140. I don't know if these are exceptional, but she's honestly one of the better summer units. So I don't think it would take a lot anyway.
Her buff there does make it a instant cast too, which makes it a lot easier to use because
Oh, that's
that's
huge.
one of the ones where people kind of run out of the way when you're trying to buff them. So yeah,
Thank you.
I mean
That's big.
she's definitely hurt by having poor accuracy and going into the fire matchup if Yuffie or Vildira is involved. She does have the limit burst, which is nice with for the 100% hit, but obviously that's not going to help you against Yuffie. That limit burst upgrade though is pretty cool because it does give the AP break of 40 on there. I don't know if it would be the first one that I would awaken and spend the summer mind spheres on, but I think I'll get to her eventually.
Definitely. Yeah, and there's enough water units now that I think she's fallen down the list, but not because she's bad. I just think the other water units are better overall, if that makes sense. Let's have Summer Kilphe, who, came out really strong and kind of did fall off a cliff for a while there. The mastery ability here didn't do a lot to bring her back, but still think she's a decently solid unit. She's getting an extra 20 slash res pen, an extra 15 accuracy, which is nice. That accuracy is something that she's always been okay with, considering how high her luck is and how high her luck can be. I like that they're giving it to her for free. And then that skill upgrade here, increasing an additional slash res pen of 30 for 3 turns. And I like that. The fact that you can get that 50 slash res pen, at least on the a buff here, I think is really strong. It's something she needed, considering that's where all the top tier slash units are. I don't know if this is massive for her, though. Again, I think lights kind of move past her, but
Yeah, she's kind of that magic bruiser. She can get very high spirits and like pretty decent magic resistance. So, if you're in those kind of matchups, I think she can do good, especially if you can stack up her dark resist a bit. And she can do pretty good damage. She's got the Imperil there, the light Imperil on her limit burst, which is pretty rare.
yep.
Hers is going to now shut off counters, and then it's going to decrease CT by 50. So that's actually pretty significant. That can have pretty nice implications for guild raids as well, potentially, if you were going to
Good point.
work that into to a boss that is immune to slow. Yeah,
Yep.
not too shabby.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have Summer Kitone, who has been so close, but always so far. Her dream upgrade, they're going a little bit extra on here in terms of giving her some things here. Most people only get 2 upgrades in the skill change, but she's getting slash res of 15, which is notable because her slash res was already at 15. The fact that she's going to 30, I do like that, just considering the balance. I don't think it's amazing, but it helps. The AoE res is really the big game changer here, considering it stacks with the 15 she already has. She's already got 10 unit res also. You talk about like a lot of good value. And then I think even in her kit here, she's got a buff to further increase AoE res. So, you talk about tuning for the state of the game. I think this is a good one. The decreased chance of being targeted is great because she is on the squishier side of things. And then overall, this one, the big upgrade here is the AoE size. It's going from a cross-shaped here to a diamond shape, which is sizable. A lot of the very top tier damage dealers have this diamond shape, and when you consider it's another AoE Imperil, it's also technically an offensive nerf here. Now, these haven't aged well. I don't think modifiers are really a giant part of the overall damage output, so much as penetrations are. But this could have always been a good ability. Now it's actually a good ability.
Yeah, I think out of the units we've looked at so far, other than Jayden, like this unit has gotten really good treatment overall. If you talk about 30 area resist going in before the vision card, before that buff, she's going to be one of those units that can be stacking up to, 70, maybe even 80% area resist. She's a cloth wearer, so she can take that 10 unit resist and add a survival vest. And she's got, 25 there, add another card. She's going to be very, very tanky with the impenetrable resistances. The damage, I don't know if it's really going to be there, but she does have the Imperil there now that it's going to be a lot easier for her to use it. One of the problems that she had before was her ranges, where she was topping out at 3-4 range in a lot of cases.
Yep.
At least in the main job here. But this is going to get her that diamond, which gets up to a 5 range and has some good range height too on the AoE. So
Excellent call out. And obviously, not to mention the limit break here. This still is relatively short range, but like, when you talk about the overall impact here, that's still getting a AoE barrier break. And then the grant haste to self is huge, considering that her agility is actually not great either. So that's kind of a nice one mid fight. we've seen how great these limit breaks are to give someone haste mid fight, as opposed to, like, let's say first turn one, where sometimes it wears off a little soon, sometimes it gets dispelled because of the, what the enemies run for their own haste dispelling things. I like that a lot.
And I mean, depending on when it comes out, like if you're the last 2 units standing, that can sometimes enable you to lap the other unit too, like getting the haste, and then that can, allow you to win the fight. This limit burst is always been amazing because of that sleep effect as well. Sleep is one of the more underrated ailments, because when you're asleep, you get that 50% bonus damage. So any follow-up attacks are going to be hitting massive on that. So
I didn't know that. There's bonus
really,
damage when you're slept?
yeah, if you're slept, it's just like Berserk. You take 50% bonus.
No, I literally never knew that. That's awesome. I actually had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, so like this unit has always been kind of a sleeper manual unit, because with Quicken you can kind of she has the ninja sub jump, so she can do poison mist across the map after Quicken, and then just sleep the other team, and then you can follow up and just wipe somebody out. So
It's funny. That's why I've always or underrated sleep as a status effect. To me, I have like three categories of status effects, and sleep's one of the lower ones. If only because it's one of those ones that once interrupted, it's just done. You get no value. So there's like a timing element to it, and confusion's kind of the same concept. That, like, you put it on someone, but let's say they get hit by some random crossfire, well, you've wasted the whole status element. But for manual play, obviously, I can see the enormous upsides of being able to eliminate turns like that. And the last one here is Summer Lilyth, who needed a lot of work. We've talked about her. There's a lot of deficiencies in this character. Like, there's just a ton of AP issues, which they've attempted to solve a little bit. They've given her 20 initial AP, which I like a lot, because that technically does work for both battles if you're doing 2 battles in a guild war. The range of 1 perma, I think, is kind of nice. Now, obviously, range 2 tends to be the best, and she already had range 1 in the mastery ability, so I am intrigued if that stacks. I really can't imagine them giving her a dream ability that it's identical to her MA ability unless it's stacked. So I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you do.
it definitely does stack. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Enormous. The fact that you can now do that and forego the range 2 ability here, which she did not have access to. It's not something in one of her passives, so that is a great missile buff overall. And then when you talk about her ability here, that decreased defense pen, it's up to 40 for 3 turns, and she's increasing her defense of 25. So normally, I know we look at defense and we kind of like, whatever, it's penetratable. But because it's combined with the decrease of enemy defense pen, that 25 means a lot more.
And she's a unit that has base defense, and then she has some in her passives as well.
Yeah.
Just circling back to the range, she does actually have it in the passives. So her main passive, she has one, and then she has a second passive as well, Ranger Lore, which or not Ranger Lore, but she has the second one there from Dual Gunner that she can use as well.
Can
So
those
she can
that can stack for range 2?
Yeah, she can get up to 4+4 range, which is rare, or maybe even not another unit has. So
I've never known any
that's
of this. You can't see my face right now because I am mind blown at the moment. I had no idea that you could stack 2 range 1 passives and they're additive. I thought they overrode each other because it's technically the same buff.
yeah, they're definitely, you can stack them.
Oh, that's a
Um,
huge buffer then.
yeah.
Very
So,
nice.
but one thing, at least in the past, it was tough not to be able to use, like, you wanted to take both range up passives to kind of increase her range to its maximum, but then you would forego the tune-up, which is tune-up time, which gives her the defense penetration and the agility, which she badly needs.
Very badly.
So now, like, she'll be competitive. She can have the +3 range between, her MA and passive, and take the defense penetration. So she'll be competitive with other missile units.
Dude, +3 range perma is incredible. I don't think any units
Definitely.
have that, other than I don't think any UR units have that. I'm sure Uni and like some of the Lorela probably have something.
Most of the bow users can get it. Like Frederica always had that because she has concentrate and then Ranger Lore.
Permanent though?
Um,
But do most
yeah,
people stack that? I don't know if they usually use them in conjunction with each other.
I
Maybe
guess it
not.
depends where. I guess it depends what you're doing, but at least on the manual side, we always stack range. So
Interesting. And honestly, that might be why I never really noticed it. I don't see many people stack these two together. Interesting.
Yeah, even like Satya can do +3 because she has two different range up passives. But again, you don't often forego the defense pen. So
That's very interesting. Well, good. I'm glad you brought that up. Good. Well, so yeah, overall, these 140 upgrades, I think, are in a step in the right direction. These summer units are very badly needed for like power creep upgrades. I don't really think any of them are exceptional, other than Summer Jayden, who is the top tier of them. There's a lot of quality 140s. I don't know if they're necessarily quality units though. Still, when you talk about again the broad scheme of the game.
yeah, I think the 80 cost units. I mean, they're gonna be able to potentially make some headway in the cost restricted formats. But in terms of the meta right now and in everyday, I 100% agree. Jayden, he's poised to be able to do something. I think, especially for players that built out their wind accounts.
Absolutely right, and the cost perspective is really the only thing that I see them having that competitive angle. So good call out there. And we do have an additional couple items just to talk about briefly. These are nothing exceptional, but they are +6 and overdue. And I do like the Kuro Kasumi. This one's getting essentially an extra 10 slash attack in addition to that 20 slash as pen. Obviously, getting a bump here in attack. Overall, keeping pace with many weapons have. I think it's a good upgrade. I think it's debatable whether it's better than Sasuke's Katana, which gets the initial AP, and I think has higher attack on it. But both of these are super viable options. I think it's a smart upgrade for it.
And this one I've always liked for certain units that don't have a ton of penetrations. So I mean, you kind of pick your poison there, depending on your builds. But always nice to have another tool in the belt.
Right. Yeah, this is really just kind of like min-maxing damage a different way. It's really hard to compare. Just you can't compare initial AP when you talk about damage output. There's just too many factors to look at them side by side. But then the Elven gloves, they're kind of similarly getting magic attack 10 in addition to their penetration, so similar there. Also getting the upgrade there on that magic stat on the magic build. Again, I think it's a decent one. I don't think it's spectacular, but in line with what we see for most things. Not a ton of analysis to do necessarily. And it's a sword breaker. This one, decently sizable, kind of the same as the others. Upgrade to the attack stat. The reaction block rate's going from what is it, 30 to 40? No, yeah, 30 to 40. Yeah. So, but actually 10%. Again, I think it's really just against those tank units that maybe you're trying to reduce the 70% or the 100% counter chances. That extra 10% is a decent reduction. But other than that, I haven't seen this one in a while. I've seen it a couple times, but
I haven't used it, I think, since I was using Bold Leela all the time.
Same, and that's because that was the only option.
Yeah. Well, she has the buff that gets her the 50% reaction block, which kind of stacked nicely with it.
Yep.
But maybe when she gets her 140, I'll break it out again.
Totally right. And at that time, reaction block was a little more rare, so this actually was a competitive advantage. But the prevalence of this now decreases how special this is overall. We're going to segue here from the Battlegrounds of Ardra to the War Room, where a little more map analysis, meta snapshots. This is where we're going to start doing our PvP against each other now, just to kind of talk about the map strategy, just kind of throw some fun things out there, stuff we've done. I know we're just finishing up Limited Guild Wars at the moment, so we're going to use that map still. And so figure just talk about it, throw another team up here for you. I brought a totally different team here this week. I don't know.
Good. I got a different one too.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. This is one that I used day one of Limited Guild Wars, and it worked against the field, and I stopped using it because I had to be a little more specific to our opponents we were anticipating, but it's a fun team. We'll see what happens. All right, this will be fun. So yeah, so you saw already for me, I have Addis in slot 1. You are Kefka slot 1. Look at you with the mono fire. All right, this is like the true meme build. Pure glove team.
Oh man,
this is going to be really interesting.
I'm not happy to see Roy Mustang over there right now with my Yuffie.
So I brought this team out week 1. Quistis of our guild loves to call these teams the OJ builds because they're glove, with the old OJ Simpson meme, the glove fits. So nice. We've been doing a ton of iterations of these OJ teams. We'll do ones with Zoma in there and Summer Helena. We're looking forward to the 140 to put her into these teams. There's a lot of fun stuff that they do just because there's a lot of gimmicks with them in terms of courage and re-raise and hate shifting and accuracy. You don't know who you're getting at any one time. That it's just fun.
I really love the job cards for kind of the creative team building. I feel like it's really opened up. I mean, if you have the cards, that's the tough part. But
Right.
as folks start to build them up, I think that it really adds a fun new element to the game that we haven't had in a while. With kind of been this stuck in the mono element for so long.
Definitely. I love the Kilphe. I've enjoyed this team because it's got some good range on it. That since the heights and pathing of this map is a little wonky, sometimes you can get away with some of these long range abilities. But we'll see. Yeah, like we're still buffing. We're a minute and a half in. This team, these teams haven't done anything. So that's both my soul regrams here, which I don't think you guys have courage remove. Don't disable.
I do not.
Oh, I don't know how you didn't disable.
I got unlucky there because I run high faith on my mons.
I do too. I'm typically 97 faith. We getting a chaining here? Is Kilphe gonna do something?
I hope not.
He missed.
Nice.
Oh no.
Oh nice.
No. But I have that soul. Your Kefka's about to nuke mine. I still have re-raise on mine. But he went to Roy.
Why?
So that's kind of the nice thing about this team. There's no dedicated tank, and so the hate just shifts. There we go. Go viral.
Yeah.
Okay. But your Mont's about to do some limit break stuff on me, isn't he? No, he's not. And he didn't disable again.
Oh my god.
I am the luckiest dude in the world here. Can the cast time go
He'll
off?
be able to hit him from the back here now.
Probably. That's a decent chain. I'm still missing on the Yuffie. I actually have Alex Ring. Oh my god. I actually have Alex Ring on my Roy geared for accuracy, so the fact that he's missing is very bad.
Man, the King Mont like backtracking really screwed this up for me.
It did. I still get a re-raise here. CT up? Do something? No, but can I kill before the cast time? No. Oh, that's huge.
That's big. That's big.
I think I have the courage and the heal back, but she's...
My Mont is dead.
Well, he's not the one I'm scared of. This is
Finish
not
off
good.
this for Roy. Get him out of there. Nice.
But no.
Oh no.
Oh, it's not over. You dumb motherfucker. Why would you not hit the Kilphe? Oh no, the hit rate. I actually have him geared for accuracy too. That's so... Oh, you win. Oh, that's so unlucky.
Oh, nice.
Oh no.
I love Yuffie on this map. Can go anywhere she wants.
Excellent. Oh, okay. All right. JB2 Ready Player Will 0 on the week out challenge. Yeah, that's so I've enjoyed using that team. Again, you see like a lot of sustain between the re-raise and the courages. There's a lot of healing because both of those Addison heal backs. Technically, all three of them have healing for fight 2 if you make it, where like you got Arithmetician, Roy's got Devout, Addison's got Cura. My Roy is supposed to be my dedicated, although you've reincarnated your Yuffie, so that's part of it too, I think, in terms of the hit rate. That he just wasn't geared for it, but damn.
No, I have Yuffie min max to all hell. She's around 400% evasion. So
nice. Oh god. Okay, yeah, I had no chance unless Addison kind of clutched it with the guaranteed hit late in the fight. But that was a fun one. All right, another week down. So good. We'll also look briefly here, just in terms of talking about meta snapshots and whatnot. We figured to take a glance at Summer Glacy on the JP side of things, and she was released on, let's say, July 31st, so we've got a decent amount of data here from her introduction into the game. And so I know we'll try to like narrow down our sample size here of who we're looking at. I think top 25 guilds is kind of a nice like middle ground of top end of the game, but also people that are maybe more casual. You'd be surprised how casual you can be at top 25, but still, you know, acquire resources. I love the fact that you see this like element wheel of lightning, water, and earth here at the top of attack and technically on defense, and not seeing dark as prevalently as it was. I think that's a really cool shakeup.
Yeah, I mean, at least on global, we've been seeing some of this, at least with earth in there, and dark obviously is one of the most prevalent, but there has been a lot of rainbow play, like we were talking about earlier, with kind of centered around Summer Glacy, especially kind of mixing in Fist with her. Those top 3 units there, Hareen, Alaya, and Summer Glacy, has been one of the most used comps there, especially on attack. It's very, very strong.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're talking, again, top 25, this is only the prior day. So you do get your mono waters, which is not surprising. Obviously, the synergy there. And I'm going to look just specifically on those that did clear on the first attack. But you are seeing that mix. You're even seeing Alaya in there on that secondary team. There's some great overlap here with other ice units. We've seen that where a lot of these units, like Howland and Reagan in particular, are so close but so far from their survivability that Glacy giving that 40% aura of physical damage down. So a massive piece of survivability for them and enabling them in ways that they hadn't before. And yeah, as you kind of go through here, there's obviously like a couple different odds and ends, but overall, really solid for what you can put it in terms of teams.
Flashback to that first page there for a sec.
Yeah.
But if you look at that team there with Summer Glacy and then the two Fist units, the second one,
Yeah.
you can see the elemental spread there is very, very good, clearing even lightning teams quite a bit.
Good call out. You're right.
Obviously, clearing it doesn't seem to be clearing as much dark, but maybe that could be just they're not seeing it as much. Who knows? But
That could be.
yeah,
I think one of the underrated things about the water cast is the fact that their 15% agility card also has the 15% lightning res on it. That's a very unique, set of things to put together on a card that not all elements get. That it drastically changes, not drastically, but it's a pretty sizable change in that matchup in terms of how much damage they take relative to what you normally experience with the element wheel, where you might normally have to sacrifice something else to get that element res in there, or only use it in the sub slot and kind of take a nerf on it. But yeah, I like it.
it's just tough because lightning also gets on their agility card the water resist, so it kind of evens out there, I guess.
It does. It's very interesting to monitor. But yeah, I'm particularly looking forward to the ice and water synergy again. I think it's a really fun one. Those two elements have some of the most creative and fun units overall. That to bring them together the way they can, I think I'm excited.
I'm sure you've been playing around with that a little bit already with the Dark Shiva.
Not as much as I thought I would. I'm really waiting for Summer Glassy. I've used it a little bit, but this map is also not ideal for some of those matchups. I just was not seeing the results I wanted, but we'll get more maps. I'll play with it more. How about you?
Yeah.
Have you done any tinkering with water and ice?
Not so much. I've more been playing with Earth and Ice, to be honest, especially with Velis, Dialdo, and Jayden has been, at least on the current map, has been amazing. It's been very, very strong. Been having fun with that one.
Yeah, that's been a lot. It's beating all dark teams. This is a great map for them, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. All right. Well, we also have the Leonis spy report here. So we've gotten the actual stats and news on Squall and Renault in particular. We've seen some gameplay footage. I know a lot of people are exceptionally underwhelmed by Squall so far. Have you looked at him at all, or any initial thoughts as well?
I have looked at him. To be honest, I've been a little bit underwhelmed myself. I feel like we haven't seen the real culmination of what he can do quite yet. I think that he's kind of baking a little bit in that night group, and I think Gumi has some more plans for that one. It's one of the groups that really hasn't gotten a ton of cards yet, but the few cards that they do have, I think, are pretty solid, especially the Melnia card that they got recently.
Yep.
So I think as soon as they get an AoE resist card, maybe they get a two. I think that group is kind of poised to be pretty strong. At least as it stands right now, Gumi is kind of designing the game more towards the job kind of synergy, and they're kind of laying bricks and pieces as they move forward. So I think a lot of people are looking at him in the context of Lightning and kind of the mono elements teams, and stacking them up against Alaya, who's been used extensively in that role. And they don't really see the 100 cost value there. And I don't blame him. I mean, I don't necessarily see it either, but I don't think that we've really, like I said, I don't think we're seeing, what he's maybe designed for, at least initially. Because he does have that big slash imperil, which obviously in the Lightning team with Alphonse and Alaya, that's not really doing much for that squad. So I think he's really set up to help the Sterns of the world that coming in, they don't have a ton of that slash resist penetration. And so I think he's kind of, again, a piece for that night group, I think, long term.
I agree with you. And you know what? It's funny. I was taking that angle of the Imperil as a big thing because it's very odd to see a 100 cost unit with no mention of Courage or Re-Raise anywhere in the kit. Not only just to use it on themselves, but as a removal. You usually get one or the other at some capacity. And it's not the end of the world if you don't, but there's not a very strong track record of units that have neither anywhere in that kit. So that's a red flag number one. He's obviously that brawler style as well. He is relatively tanky against a handful of types of damage that are at the top of the meta in terms of slash and strike. So that's the other thing too, that I think Strike 2 brawlers are always this really cool concept. Haven't always worked, and so we're kind of just jaded at this point where we talk about resistances and whatnot. We're like, that's cool, but that doesn't end up panning out. And the one thing I've tried to talk myself into circles of about that Imperil, I don't think it's as good as I thought it was. The thing with the slash res Imperil, 38%, is not an enormous amount of slash res for someone to have anymore. There's a lot of units that get 38% or could, or can get up to it, particularly on the tank roll. That when you talk about that Imperil going negative, I don't think you're going to get as many characters going negative on the slash. And although the penetration angle is also important, I also know that debuff weakening is more and more prevalent. So that 38% might get chipped down more and more to less than 38%, in which case it's really not that huge of an apparel anymore. And so I thought that was the angle to take. I still think it is, but I don't think it's as like game changing as we think like Gilgamesh was back in the day, where like Katetsu came out and just like annihilated everything. Like that's not going to happen here anymore with that, particularly because it's an AoE ability and the damage that it will or won't do anyways on its own. But I think it's a hard sell for Squall. I agree. Very, very underwhelming.
I think at least early on, people have been a bit more enamored and impressed with Renoa, and she seems, at least in the early goings, to be kind of in the Velis vein. That's kind of what we were
Right.
conjecturing on last week, and that seems to be exactly kind of her thing. She's got an offensive, but has the support angle there as well. I love the haste ability that gives the area resistance. That's really, really strong.
Yep.
The only thing that's really puzzling and I'm a little bit worried about it is the AI issues where she just won't heal somebody with the select 2 ability. She'll just heal one person unless they're specifically below a specific threshold. And I really think that's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. So I hope that Gumi is working on fixing that. Yeah. So on her AOE heal, I think that there is some element to the movement that's also kind of puzzling. But this one is actually the select 2, where she can have 2 targets in range. Maybe one of them is at 80% health. The other one is below the threshold. Maybe they're at like 50% health. She'll heal just the 50% target and not use the other charge
Oh,
of the
I didn't know
select
that.
2,
Oh, that's awful.
which
That's
which
terrible.
makes no sense.
No sense. Why would you ever?
It's
That
like,
makes no sense.
yeah, why would you just select one when you can for free get, it doesn't matter what their health is at that point. They should be using both.
I
So
misinterpreted that. Completely agree. That's honestly, that's the kind of thing I would ask everyone to submit a report ticket on, because like that needs to be fixed. That's awful.
hopefully the content creators have pointed it out specifically. So hopefully the JP players are complaining about it enough that Gumi will fix it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll see.
And to be fair, that's a new mechanic to select 2 and heal. That might just be a coding thing where they like didn't anticipate the fallout effects of what happens when someone's above the healing threshold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
So cool. All right. Well, they also got a new vision card, which was very unique in that the Squall vision card is mono lightning. I think it got a lot of hopes up for a lot of people. They were like, "Oh, mono element." No, 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 no. They do not have a mono lightning unit res card, and so this is kind of just catching up. We have the Esther vision card, which does, and so this is their way to kind of make up for it. And obviously, we could compare, and we're going to compare the differences between the two cards to see who got the raw end of the deal overall. I know I have a pretty strong opinion of my own, but either of these cards stand out to you better, one versus the other so far?
Definitely ours. I think ours is quite a bit better. So we're pretty much going to be matching on the unit resistance, but ours is going to be adding in the HP, the strike, the slash resist penetration.
Yeah.
So I think that one is quite a bit better. They both have the dex there and the base stats. The attack values are pretty much the same. So yeah, I don't know. This one does have the strike resistance, which for certain matchups that's going to be pretty nice. And like you said earlier, it does seem like they've given Squall a little bit of that anti-strike niche where he can be a unit that even goes up against his own elements in Alaya and maybe does pretty well. So
Yeah.
that seems to be kind of what they're going for there.
I definitely think it is. Where you look at like the damage reduction at range from his kit. What he has for innate resistances, his buff. I think his counter ability is also it's a 70% chance to proc to reduce strike damage by 40%. That's in addition to the reduction in damage from like range. And you talk about this, like I prefer our card. I see where they went with this one, but I think the slash res pen of 35, the HP is just superior for what Lightning has. Generally speaking, yeah, this isn't a bad card either.
I think it is at least set up that you could use both of them potentially in a lightning party
Yeah,
if you were trying to double stack the unit resistance. Which, I mean, these days I'm doing that more and more. Where in the past I would always only main slot unit and area resist just because they took such a heavy penalty. But more and more I'm double stacking it just because those are so much more valuable than other resistances. Even if they are technically more before you factor in penetration.
yeah, I would agree with
So.
that. Yeah, I mean, we still looking forward to 8. We have Irvine coming, so we'll be intrigued seeing what he does. But for now, good and bad for the 8 collaboration so far.
Any early predictions? Is it going to be Prompt 2.0?
I think so. I have no hope. I have no hope for Irvine. And we'll actually talk about this. That's one of our Q&A here that we'll get into right now for question number 3. But for now, question number 1. So Q&A number 1 here: has the road to worldwide affected your planned content, and if so, what ways? Do you think about the game differently, either as a content creator or as a player now? I know this probably impacted you more than me, but I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, so I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, kind of in a few of the weeks, but maybe not answered it outright. But for me, definitely, because the kind of the whole premise of my channel, or one of the main pieces of content that I would make, was those future looks where I'd really dive into a character over weeks, and then put out something a couple months in advance, kind of going soup to nuts on the entire kit, the abilities, the equipment, the vision cards, all that stuff, and kind of give my take on the unit. And the idea was to kind of really take advantage of the foresight, and try to give people exactly what they might be looking forward to in the months to come. So that's really had me reevaluate how I'm kind of doing those reviews. And I have been working on kind of it's not going to be that much different. I'm still going to be reviewing the character, looking at the abilities, but I am going to be doing it a little bit differently. It's going to be a little bit more concise, a little bit more to the point, and a little bit less in depth, just because I'm not going to have that much time, to deep dive into the units to really get them out in a timely fashion. So in terms of the whole situation itself, kind of looking at it from that angle, I definitely took a little bit step back in my spending. I shut it off completely for at least a couple weeks there. And once they started bringing back some of the things I was specifically complaining about, I did open up the wallet a little bit more, but still not to the point where I was before this the whole situation went down. So my kind of take on the whole situation with Gumi has definitely soured kind of my enjoyment of the game recently. So it's slowly getting better.
I'm the same. I've recovered. I haven't been spending like I have though, and that was intentional. And I realized we're at the point too where it's just not smart anymore. It was never smart, to be honest, when you really think about it in the vacuum of life. But in terms of my content, it hasn't really changed anything. My content's still been character reviews. I do intend on doing more content. I just haven't gotten around to it, quite honestly. And that's not a motivation thing. It's really more just like a time thing as well. But in terms of playing the game differently, I know myself I've been harsher in evaluating some of these characters than I have in the past. Like I gave Wing, Stern, and Bart's both B pluses, if you know what I mean, and those are like exceptionally strong units overall. When I look at Squall, I'm not as glass half full. I think my copium levels have reduced, knowing that we're going to be crunched for spend. It's going to be accelerated. We're not getting the full roadmap, so characters could be hard countered 2 weeks after they come out, for all we know. And so I've been more critical of units than I have in the past, not knowing how Gumi's gonna suddenly like introduce auras all of a sudden. Like, who would have thought they'd introduce a character like Summer Glacy with a 40% non-barrier physical? Like that, it can't even conceive of that, if you know what I mean. And so I'm being more conservative in how I approach that, and that trickles down into hum pulling, where I'm attempting at this point forward. I have no intentions to pull Elia straight up or Melnia. I'm gonna wait for them being permanent pool, where formerly characters like that I'd be absolutely like, give me all day. These are good units. I'm going to pull them right now. and it's just not the case anymore because it's just not economical.
Yeah, I'm there as well. I am going to pull Elia, but Melnia, I was looking at skipping. Jayden, kind of my what I've been doing is just kind of doing a couple of the ticket pools because we get the kind of the cheaper ones that we have access to, and that's kind of what I'm doing for the permanent pool units. If I get lucky, I'll get them because that's kind of the situation. We have to be a little bit more discerning with the units, just because they are coming in so rapid fire at the moment. If things slow down in the future, maybe I can start collecting them all again. But at least for now, I'm definitely focusing the resources towards the limited side and trying to get those ones at least.
That makes sense. Question number 2 here. What unit, if any, do you avoid the most in Arena? And who submitted this? It said, for me, it's Addison. She can just make fights weird. And I agree with that. That's her best shining thing. We've been doing a lot of Arena, I think, between you and I the past couple weeks. Has there been any units for you that have stuck out to say, like, I'm not going to fight them?
I don't know if I've ever really gotten that feeling. Because I guess it would be more from the standpoint that I just am lazy and I don't want to create another team to counter it. Because in Arena, all you have to do is just have another team to counter what you're seeing. So
Yep.
I don't think I'm ever really scared of anyone. That's
I
just me.
agree. So yeah, on a character perspective, I agree. There's not a character. Even Addison, I think there's counterplay and usually know what you're getting. It's really evasion teams, and that's for the point you brought up, where I see an evasion team, and I'm like, oh, now I have to like go change to trust stones, and I got to sub around the vision cards, and maybe change a buff to get like it's too much work, so I just pass. Like I know I could beat them, it's not worth the
Yeah.
time. So those are ones that I avoid, but it's not a character specific thing.
Yeah, same. It's more just the convenience factors of more and more. I'm just building one team and I'll just roll with that because I'm not really trying to climb into the top 25 or top 10 for arena. Mostly, I'm just trying to hit that threshold of top 50 or top 100, top 1000, whatever, just to get that weekly viz. And I'm not really putting in much more effort beyond that and
Same.
majority of weeks.
Same. And actually, you know what? If I could pick a character, just like specifically answer the question, I'd probably go Bartz, to be honest. If only because he adds this like element of chaos in terms of damage output that you just can't predict looking at the formation screen because you don't know what AI is going to be. Like, what do they have for toggles and where's he standing? And are they min maxing the human killer? Are they not? Like, you don't know that. And so you might look at a team on the picture and be like, oh, yeah, I could beat this team. But he quite often is this random X factor of damage that I'm just like, it's not worth the RNG of losing because it's not what I expected.
His damage gets absolutely insane sometimes.
It does.
Like he he hit my Dialdo for damage cap on his area resist imperil diamond or whatever that he
Yeah.
has.
Yep.
I had been hit before that or like one or two chains, but still like I went from 80% to 0.
Yeah.
You don't really see that very often against Dialdo. So.
Definitely not. Definitely not. That circles us back around to the Irvine question we kind of hinted at before. With Prompto and now Irvine, could there be a possibility of Dark getting more missile support with more units, vision cards, espers per chance? I know I have an answer. Do you have a thought on this?
So I'll kind of piggyback on what I was saying earlier, where I don't think that Gumi is designing the units and the majority of the game balance around mono element anymore. And that's been for the better part of a year now. Sure, they threw in a couple of elemental cards, with the Squall card we just looked at, and then the Sorrow card. Aside from that, though, for a good year now, it's all job VCs or dual element VCs, and that's really where they're tuning the units and the abilities and the various units that are released. It's purely around that. So, could they release a card that's will benefit both of them? We'll definitely see that because they're both gunner class, So you will be able to build teams around it. I don't know necessarily that they're thinking of those two units together, though, necessarily. They're probably more thinking about how is he going to pair with Melnia, how is he going to pair with Elia, and some of the other top of the line missile units.
I agree totally. My answer to the question is no. I don't even think Prompto should even be in the sentence. Prompto should have no bearing at all on your analysis of Dark getting missile support. To your point, they're not tuning for it. And even then, I don't think Dark is specifically going that direction. The only upside I would ever see is if I don't even know. I don't think there is an upside. I really don't. The thing with missile units that you really want missile res pen which, when they release a card that has that universally, that's going to be big. We know that Ice has it. We know that Wind has it because of Summer Jayden, unique to Global. Not all elements have that Missile Res pen, so that's probably the next step if they were to pursue that avenue. But again, it would be a job-based vision card. It wouldn't necessarily be a dark one. So to say dark getting more support, probably not. And even then, I don't think you would get Espers in the mix at all for that, because all you really need is dark attack up. You don't need missile attack anymore. There's no missile res pen on the Esper board. There could be. That'd be cool. But other than that, I don't really think there's a lot coming on the pipeline. I just think Irvine happens to be a missile unit that's also dark.
I do think that we will see missile risk penetration on his card. I think that that's a pretty high probability that we do see that,
Yeah.
because that's one that is missing from the gun group, and that is it one that would definitely turbocharge that team building. Especially if it's paired with another really nice effect like area resist, or one of the other kind of key effects that's needed. So
Yep. No, I agree. And just talking about like trend wise, I think that makes sense. Where you got Melnia coming out with a busted vision card to go with her. You throw this now in as a new vision card with some potential penetrations as well. We're going through that ebb and flow where I think we're starting to get away from some of the slash units. We kind of got that, explosive amount of slash units and all the penetration and games around that and counter abilities between Raph, which she has, and Reagan and a whole bunch of the characters, Squall included. And I think we're now kind of going back through that wheel of like damage types. Obviously, Strike had its time to shine. Magic kind of did, obviously between Kefka, Roy, and a couple others. Maybe not to the degree that Slashes, but I think Missile's next in line, and this seems right up the alley there.
definitely.
So good. All right. Well, that brings us to the last portion here, which is our TMR tier list of sorts. And JB very creatively put this together in a way that I hadn't thought about to do so, but makes perfect sense in terms of how to do so. We get this question a lot. What's the best TMR to use? Like, what are the TMR tier lists? And at this point in the game, that really isn't the same question anymore. Early on, TMRs were some of the most powerful abilities in the game. They kind of still are, but there's been an exceptional amount of like character ability power creep, where a lot of characters nowadays have 3 or 4 abilities on their main buffs, and it's just so much so that you don't get the opportunity to use a TMR ability, and it's typically not always worth it. So at this point, they've either been relegated to like they do something very specific that the character doesn't really have on their own, or quite honestly, it's just like a stat stick. And so or I wouldn't say JB grouped them together perfectly like this in terms of classifying how you might use some of them. And these are like S rank or our A rank TMRs. These are the ones that we use most often. So it is a tier list of sorts. Anything under this is kind of whatever, not bad. They're just not ones you use often. So JB, do you want to talk a little bit about how you use some of these and how you think about them?
Yeah. So basically, exactly like you were saying, the abilities have gotten to a point where the TMRs just really can't compete in a lot of cases for the ability economy, standpoint. So, there are certain ones that actually do and are used quite often. That's these days. That's most of the time. That's haste, which is that first box there.
Yep.
That those are getting used all the time on your Sephiroths and Bradleys and kind of your carry DPS, just because that status itself is so insanely powerful.
Yeah.
So that it's worth giving up, some other buff that maybe could be pretty nice in other circumstances. So I mean, there are actually maybe 1 or 2 other haste TMRs, but they're a bit more niche, like Ranon's TMR, for example. Not very many people can use it. The best ones are going to be the accessories. So that's Bradley's himself. That's Ferris's, which is the boots there. We do have a couple more coming, Squall and Bronwell. So they've been really pumping out the haste TMRs because they know how much we like them.
Yeah.
That the OG though, I will point out Kane's TMR that gives that the original 2-cast TMR. It's still very good to this day on plate users. So if you have it, it's still very good. The second category there, sustain. I just kind of grouped these together. Some the Machery and Unity TMR for kind of the heal plus the barrier or protect. And then the other 2 there, Urels and Alphonses, are a bit more recent in that they can kind of give you that HP absorb capability. So, these effects they're kind of situational. You kind of break them out when you need them. That's kind of the majority of the list here, other than what we have there in the stat stick.
Yeah. Can I
So
talk a little bit about the sustain? So I know one of the
yeah,
big things for the upside is Guild Wars specifically for second attacks and second defense, particular for teams that have magic units that maybe don't have a healer AI or capability in them. That when you have a Moshri TMR, we saw this in the heyday of like the Elena Jayden Engelbert meta. You would throw Moshri TMR on Elena because you would know second fight she would move to someone and heal, and that's a massive upside. So it's like an S rank in terms of impact because you're making characters do things they normally couldn't, and obviously it's a game changer for the viability of an entire second fight. The Urel and Alphonse one, maybe like a smidge less so because they are like as the fight goes on, they wear off. They're correlated to how much damage you do, so the healing's a little more, hit or miss. But we've seen a couple teams here where all you need is a little bit extra healing, and it technically counts as like effective HP of sorts, if you will, where you can kind of just like keep your health above dying. These do end up getting some
yeah.
good value. Yeah.
And then of course the evade there. These are some of the best ones in the game for that. I think technically Lara's, at least from a statistics perspective, I think is the best total evade, but Kitone's is right up there, as well as Lucia's. Yuffie's and Locke's are more for the actual effects that they bring. You can get some luck and agility there.
Yep.
So that pretty much leads us to the right side. Now, by the way, I mean, some of these TMRs, they can have multiple uses. Some of them really fit in multiple categories. I kind of just put them where I thought they were most used or most relevant here. But Ziza's Bells, probably the most famous TMR in the game. Still probably, the first one that you should grind out or get access to. Uh, you know, Still to this day, some units do need a lot of AP, especially missile units most often. So still good for its initial intended purpose, but the stats on it alone are something that I still use it in so many builds just for the accuracy and defense and especially the
The
agility of
agility.
7.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one common thing here when you look at the stat stick category. All of these are going to have 5+ agility on them.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, no, same. It's really to stack up those stats, and a lot of times you'll have these TMRs off. Even bells, I'll quite often have that off, and it's literally just to maximize the stats on the right side there. And yeah, the agility is an important thing, and we're getting a couple new TMRs as well, which have maybe to the casual observer some odd agility values on them. I think we just recently got one that had like 2 agility on it. Some have 3 or 4, and those are still kind of in the stat stick category. It's really for agility tuning. When you talk about party members, who goes first, who goes second, the fact that you can kind of fine tune who has one more agility than someone else is super valuable when you talk about AI and getting your opening rotation going. But yeah, the rest of these, I mean, they're solid abilities still, but they really are used more for the just stats on them.
and this bottom one, I think they have some unique effects. I just put a miscellaneous category that's some of these you might stick on a support unit just to get a certain buff, like Bold Lily's TMR gets that large agility buff that can be good for kind of keeping units in certain positions. Helena's TMR for kind of counter matchups, light and dark resistance. And we've been seeing kind of more TMRs in that vein. Summer Glacies is another one that we've talked about. Rob's TMR Keen Blade, that's another, like, probably the best TMR in the game, I would say, if I had to choose out of all of them.
Yep.
The AoE 50 CT is insanely powerful on especially on smaller maps where you can just abuse other teams by kind of getting the second turn and pouncing on them. Vega's TMR is a more recent one with the Protect and Berserk
It's exceptional.
elements.
That's one of the best
Very,
ones
very,
here, in my opinion.
yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. This is just kind of that X factor that these abilities do kind of outshine the lack of character ability. Like if you can get an extra re-raise in here on a support, that's super valuable. If you're looking to berserk an enemy, Dialdo and Raph are both 97 faith tanks. If you berserk them, that's a huge bonus. You talk about the Rob TMR like you just did, like massive turn order, and even the Lamega one. I think I would probably put this one in the stat stick category because it's not an ability on it per se. I know a lot of times we use this though to like maximize your attack stat with the trust stones, which typically get cut in half if you have a weapon otherwise. But yeah, these are ones that I'll frequently use every single day in a variety of situations. There's a couple others that I use too, but I think this is kind of the best we can do from a tier list perspective because TMRs, and I think the big thing that gets so often misunderstood in the stat stick category is how much overlap this goes into, how much overlap there is with Truststone set bonuses. Where even when you're talking about like a left side, HP, defense, or spirit sets, oftentimes if you're running a defense set of stones, you need to put those on the item that has the most defense, because I think that stack gets cut down to 25%. So if you're not min maxing your defense or spirit right on these TMRs either, you also get into some weird scenarios. And the same thing can be said for stacking accuracy. If you're going for accuracy trust stones, you want to pick a TMR that's got the most accuracy possible on it, so you can maximize how much gets cut in half or not. And so that's a huge consideration, is the trust stone set bonuses in addition to all of these. So a lot to think about.
Definitely, that kind of goes into the bigger conversation of team building in general, and all those considerations are factors. But yeah, I think this is at least a good starter list for, and I don't think that a lot of them are going to be surprises to a lot of folks out there. I think that especially when it comes to agility, those are highly coveted amongst the player base.
Definitely. But yeah, I know it's maybe not the most satisfactory tier list. Everyone likes to actually see S, A, B, and then trash talk us when we're wrong about certain ones, or debate us. But I think it's the most accurate and insightful way we could phrase it, because it's such a complex topic, and how they're used in the modern state of the game. And so hopefully learn something from that. That's
So gun,
yeah.
so gun to your head, is Ziza's Bell's S tier?
Yes. Oh yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
That's in a tier above everything else. It's multi-purpose. Stat stick,
Yeah.
ability, everything.
Even when you think about like its usage, like outside of PvP, like even just doing these the raid revivals, I throw them on my units just so they have the AP sustain to solo the boss there all the time. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, frequently, for not only the raid revival you just mentioned, but even brand new raids, if they release one, a lot of characters can solo those raids. They can only solo them with bells, though. I've never seen a character solo a raid without Ziza bells, and that's obviously very special. Cool. That's a lot to cover today. A lot of interesting stuff coming in from the summer perspective. I don't know what kind of splashes we'll see with the older summer units, but Jayden and Glacy, I got some high hopes, and seeing how they're implemented here. But that's all we got for tonight. Any other thoughts, JB, here?
no, that's about it. I'm thinking about maybe doing a stream on to pull Glacy on Wednesday. So hopefully, if work's not too crazy, I can get away and do that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm actually really excited for Summer Jayden's upgrades. I'm definitely going to be awakening him on Wednesday. I'll try to find an antler somewhere to be able to do it.
Same.
But aside from that, good luck to the folks that are pulling out there.
Yep, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.